What are you scared of? Surely everyone will name something different, while in the list of scary things, almost everyone has a place for haunted houses. An interesting fact about haunted houses is that they scare most of those people who claim not to believe in ghosts. In this video, Top F talks about the 5 scariest haunted houses in the USA. And before we start, like this video and subscribe to my channel. Turn on notifications if you want to catch all the new releases. Get ready to be scared, we start. 1. St. Augustine Lighthouse, St. Augustine, Florida. Over the years, many facts have been established about the ghosts of the Lighthouse of St. Augustine, which is located on the Atlantic coast. When it comes to haunted places in Florida, this particular lighthouse is considered one of the most popular. The main reason for this is location. This structure is located in the so-called oldest city of the nation, or ancient city. St. Augustine is a place with a vast and violent past. Due to the age of the city itself, many historical buildings and places are surrounded by many ghost legends. Overall, the city is considered the most haunted of all of Florida's haunted locations. The lighthouse in St. Augustine is considered one of the tallest lighthouses located in the United States. It stands 165 feet above sea level and contains an amazing 219 steps that visitors must climb to reach the observation deck that oversees the ancient city. On the land on which the lighthouse stands, a marine facility has been built since the early 1500s. However, the current lighthouse has only been owned since October 15, 1874. Before this, the lighthouse that guided ships to the Atlantic Ocean was only 40 feet high, built of wood, contained only a lamp, and flew a large number of flags. To understand the facts about the hauntings associated with the St. Augustine Lighthouse, it is important to get an idea of the history of the site. By learning a bit about the area's history, you can better estimate and understand why this place is considered one of the most haunted places in Florida. Although the current lighthouse was completed in 1874, actual construction began in 1871. Shortly after the completion of the lighthouse, builders began work on the construction of a house that would serve as a residence for the keepers of the light and their families. It has been designed to accommodate up to 3 separate families. This building was designed using Victorian architecture and was completed in 1876. Typically, the main custodian oversees the structure and operations, and this custodian has up to 2 additional assistants to help with his duties. In 1955, there was no need for light guides, only lamplighters were required. These people did not live in the territory. The ocean is often associated with many tragedies. This is especially true of the Atlantic Ocean. Tropical storms and hurricanes over the years have caused many ships and liners to sink and many to die. In addition to this, many ships were unable to withstand the harsh waves and currents in open waters. As a result, many watercraft collapsed under pressure and sank into the dark depths of the Atlantic Ocean. One of the ghostly facts associated with the St. Augustine Lighthouse is that throughout history, it seemed that the light emitted by the tower attracted not only the living but also the souls of those who perished at sea. For over 150 years, many ghost stories have been told about these lost souls by those who worked and lived around the St. Augustine Lighthouse. These stories have made it one of the most visited places in Florida. The following story, related to this haunted lighthouse in Florida, tells of a little girl dressed in clothes appropriate to the era of the early 20th century. When investigating deaths that occurred in the late 1900s, it was discovered that a little girl had been killed by a train that at that time often ran near the lighthouse grounds. The documentation regarding this child's death is not at all specific enough to give an established age, but people who have claimed to have seen her spirit say she looks like she is between 10 and 11 years old. Many witnesses to this real ghost claim that she was often seen walking around the building in which the keepers of the light lived, as well as the tower itself, right behind the bushes. Paranormal investigators believe that this young girl may be a residual ghost or a record of past events that happened during her lifetime. It is believed that it is somehow connected with the Lighthouse of St. Augustine. While researching the haunted facts related to this haunted lighthouse, there is another story related to children. Although there are many different versions of the story, the most basic story is that in the 1870s, when the current lighthouse was being built, two of the light guide's children, as well as another girl, who could have been a daughter, a servant, or a slave, were playing on a handcar, in which building materials were brought from ships in the ocean. Unfortunately, the car crashed into the stormy ocean. It is believed that the servant child was able to successfully escape the raging sea, but that the other two girls were not successful and died. Since then, there have been many reports of a little girl lingering in and around the lightkeeper's house, as well as in the tower itself. Today, many still claim to have seen this young girl looking out of the window of the keepers of the light. While stories of child spirits are the most commonly cited ghost facts associated with St. Augustine Lighthouse, several other spirits are also thought to haunt the grounds. One story involves a man who lost a large fortune in the stock market crash that occurred in 1929. It is believed that he was so shaken by the financial loss that he committed suicide by hanging himself here. However, it is important to understand that no documentation supports this claim. 2. The Sallie House, Atchison, Kansas. Known for its paranormal phenomena, Sallie's house is located in Kansas. In appearance, this is the most ordinary house, of which there are thousands, but the inhabitants of this house are very dangerous. We can say that they protect him. As soon as someone enters there, inexplicable attacks begin. Eyewitnesses say that more than once they noticed ghosts in it, and objects flew around the house. Someone heard the voices of animals and people coming from the house. And for those who live in the neighborhood, from time to time, mysterious wounds, scratches, burns, and cuts appear on the body. Locals believe that strange events in this house began to occur after the death of a little girl who died due to a medical error at the beginning of the last century. The doctor's name was Charles Finn. He performed a futile operation, as a result of which the girl was gone. According to legend, the dead girl remembers what the doctor did, and to this day takes revenge on all men who enter this house. The public learned about the Sallie house from the spouses who lived in this house. The couple talked about the terrible things happening in the room of their young child. The family said that in the nursery, the lights constantly turned on for no reason, and the toys climbed off the shelves and sat in a circle in the center of the room. One of the famous psychics heard about the haunted house and wished to come there. Already at the entrance to the Sallie house, the woman saw that a certain person was sitting at the window. When the stranger discovered that he had been noticed, he got up and went into the kitchen. The most interesting thing was that there was no one in the house. The psychic felt the negative energy in the house, but was unable to help the family get rid of the ghosts. Later, one of the popular television shows asked the family for permission to film a story about ghosts living in the house. After that, the poltergeists got even angrier. It was possible to capture horrific footage on film, where the father of the family scratches himself for almost 10 minutes and speaks in a voice that is not his own. After recovering, the man said that something was forcing him to do all these inexplicable things. And then the husband felt an obsessive desire to kill his wife. The family could not stay in this house for another minute. They decided to leave as soon as possible. Other ghosts living in the house. It turned out that the ghost of a little girl is not the only inhabitant of the house. Nobody knows exactly how many more ghosts there are. The father of the family admitted that he had seen Sallie more than once. When he wanted to approach her, she was very frightened. The man also recalled seeing a young woman in the kitchen several times. She screamed at him and disappeared as soon as he tried to touch her. This young woman is believed to be the ghost of a relative of Dr. Finney who lived near Sallie's house. Another well-known medium inspected the house in 2009. He stated that he saw the ghost of a doctor surrounded by a dark mass. The medium met in the house and the ghosts of two girls named Emily and Anna. They had someone else with them, whom they called the devil. Now no one lives in the Sallie's house, but tourists from all over the world dream of breaking through there to see all these ghosts with their own eyes. 3. Franklin Castle, Cleveland, Ohio. Franklin Castle in Cleveland has become a stronghold of numerous urban legends and one of the most famous haunted houses. Outwardly, this mansion even looks quite creepy, a Gothic house with towers and balconies, a lot of forged details in the decoration, the presence of secret rooms and passages, and gargoyles became its highlight. This masterpiece of the Gothic style was built by the German immigrant Tiedemann in the 60s of the last century. Starting as a simple grocer, Hans Tiedemann was able to grow into a successful banker. They still argue about his personality. Some tend to consider Hans a cruel monster, and others think that he, like the rest, is just a victim of nightmarish events. After entering Franklin Castle, not so much time passed before members of the Hans family began to die. The first victim was his daughter. According to urban legend, the girl was found hanged, although the official version is that she died of diabetes. Tiedemann's elderly mother soon followed her into the kingdom of the gloomy Hades, the god of death. If everything was clear with the death of the girl, she died of diabetes, then the reason for the death of the old lady has not yet been found out. Later, Hans lost 3 more children, and the cause of their death was also not solved by the police. However, now a shadow of suspicion has fallen on the owner of the Gothic mansion. From the many legends about this house, you can find out that Hans was accused of other deaths: the death of a servant, a mistress, his niece, wife. Hans Tiedemann died on his way back to Franklin Castle. Subsequent owners constantly found hidden passages and rooms in the house, tunnels dug underground. According to eyewitnesses, in the castle, you can see the ghost of the owner of the house and the lady in black. According to rumors, this is a murdered young servant. Hear the heart-rending cries of children, and meet the ghost of Hans' niece. There are claims that the objects in the mansion moved by themselves, and the doors and windows also lived their own lives. All the families that owned the castle afterward tried to leave it as soon as possible, and now the history of this house has become part of urban legends. 4. Snedeker House, Southington, Connecticut. How it all began. The Snedeker lived in New York. Alan, the head of the family, and his wife Carmen was engaged in raising children. In 1986, the eldest son, Philip, began to complain to his mother about pain in the left side of his jaw. Having visited the doctor, the woman heard a disappointing diagnosis: her child had cancer of the immune system. The boy was prescribed treatment at a clinic located in Connecticut. Since there was a long distance from the house to the hospital, Philip's parents decided to rent an apartment there. Walking through Southington, Carmen saw a suitable ad. The price was reasonable, and after talking with their spouse, the Snedekers rented the property. The night before leaving for Connecticut, the woman had a nightmare about their new abode. However, she did not attach any importance to this. On June 30th of the same year, the family moved into a rented residential building. Settlement in a new home. The family, consisting of a husband and wife, their 4 children, and 2 nieces, began to settle in an old mansion, the events in which served as an inspiration for the creation of the horror film The Haunting in Connecticut. The real story says that Alan repaired the dwelling and brought it to more or less normal condition. During working hours, the man was not in the city, as his activities were related to business trips. Carmen cooked, cleaned, and tidied up the rooms. The younger children went to kindergarten, and the older ones went to school. Life slowly began to stabilize. Philip, meanwhile, was undergoing therapy at a local hospital. Carmen was reluctant to go down to the basement because there was a creepy atmosphere. Basement or crypt? Strange and frightening things began to happen to the new tenants after the Snedekers discovered that their basement used to be a mortuary. Carmen and Alan found tools for opening the bodies of the dead, deep cells with serial numbers built into the wall, equipment for transporting coffins, rubber tubes of various diameters, photographs of corpses, many barrels of heating oil, and bags with clothes of the deceased. Later, small graves were discovered in the backyard, which was also reflected in the movie The Haunting in Connecticut. Alan and Carmen turned to the real estate service, with the help of which a deal was made to rent a house. They complained that they were not informed about the presence of a funeral home in their house, but the realtor insisted that he told them about it. The controversial situation was never resolved, and the Snedekers had to put up with it. Meeting with the inevitable. The first contact with the dark forces occurred with Philip. First, he began to hear someone calling him, and then to see what was hidden from prying eyes during the day. The guy woke up from the fact that there were silhouettes of some men above him. They were breathing hoarsely and just looking at him. After strange sounds and hallucinations, he began to smell unpleasant odors and even feel like the true inhabitants of the house were touching him. He told Carmen everything, but she thought it was a side effect of chemotherapy. But having visited the doctor, the specialist ruled out such a possibility. Following Philip, his brothers and sister began to tell their parents about mystical phenomena in the mansion. Only after Philip's friend complained to his parents about the terrible things in the neighbor's basement, the latter had to pay attention to it. Every night, the Snedeker children were increasingly attacked by mysterious creatures, after which the film The Haunting in Connecticut is named. Once Carmen read Philip's diary and was horrified at what strange things he wrote about. The boy changed every day. He became gloomy and withdrawn, and also began to pose a threat to all family members. The woman went to a doctor from psychiatry, and on the same day the nurses took Philip to the hospital. There he was in a straitjacket under the influence of medications. But before they took him away, the teenager managed to warn his mother that now the ghosts will switch to all the other Snedekers. Last encounter. Carmen regretted her act. She sat in the basement for a long time and waited for a meeting with those who disturbed Philip. Soon the spirits made themselves felt. While Alan was at work and the children were with their grandmother, Carmen stayed with her niece, Tammy. That night the ghosts attacked them. They tried to rape one of them and strangle the other with a shower curtain. As a result, the girl sat on the bed and read the Bible, and the dark forces retreated. The next day, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren came to the Snedeker house. After examining the house, they decided that it was inhabited by phantoms. The reason for their appearance was that the funeral home employees who worked here committed repeated acts of necrophilia. Then the priests came to the mansion and performed a rite of purification from the restless souls. Truth or fiction? Ghosts in Connecticut no longer manifest themselves. Carmen greatly regretted that she sent her son to a psychiatric hospital from where he came out sometime later. The young man felt betrayed. He still had a grudge against his mother. It is noteworthy that when the Snedekers left the mansion, Philip went into remission, which ended with the retreat of cancer. The new owners of the house, by the way, lived there quietly and never encountered supernatural phenomena. And this became a reason to doubt the veracity of the story. Some called the Snedekers charlatans who tried to attract attention to themselves in this way. Others sympathized with them, believing that the house was cleared of evil spirits, so the new tenants did not encounter it. It seems that only the Snedekers know what has happened there. 5. The Surgeon's House. The house was built in 1916 in Jerome, Arizona for the head of a group of surgeons. It was later converted into a hotel for nurses working at a nearby hospital. Since 1930, Dr. Artur Carlson lived here with his family. In 1953, when the local mine was closed, the house was sold to the owner of the mine. The further fate of the building was stormy. It passed from hand to hand and quickly deteriorated. Rumors of ghosts were not long in coming. So, in the house, they began to notice an elegant man dressed in an expensive suit and holding a medical bag in his hand. He walks around the house, enters the bedroom, changes clothes, and disappears. Another ghost of the house is a maid in a blue dress named Alice. And in one of the rooms, a couple in love can be seen dancing in the moonlight. That's all for today, my dear friends. Mr. Top F was with you. Thanks for watching this video to the end. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Also, write down in the comments what topic of the video you want to see in the next release of Top F. Bye.